What's up, everybody? Good morning to you, and welcome into the Auburn Blitz podcast. Here on a Tuesday, another game day edition of the Auburn Blitz podcast here, and we get started a little bit early here on Tuesdays. Good to see you this morning, Randy, as we get rolling, and Auburn has another tough task on its hands. I think that's kind of an oxymoron statement in this league right now. Every time you go on the floor in this league, it's a tough task. It doesn't matter if you're at home, on the road. And Auburn losing to Florida on Saturday, got to turn around and play tonight in Nashville against the Vanderbilt Commodores, and we'll dive into that here shortly. Is this the best conference we've ever seen in college basketball? Bruce Pearl seems to think it is. We'll talk about his comments from the press conference yesterday, and we'll take your comments, everything that's going on. Softball got started this weekend, got off to a 5-0 start with the Malvo error. So a lot of energy on the field. You can just tell maybe, just a little bit different vibe with that softball program, which is needed. And then you've got baseball starting up on Friday with Holy Cross if the weather permits. So, but first things first, Sense of Green, for air that's cool and clean, call on Sense of Green. They're the carrier experts as you look at it on the banner behind Bruce Pearl after every game. They're proud supporters of Auburn University athletics as well, and proud supporters here of the Auburn Blitz podcast. We appreciate them very much. Call on Sense of Green. They're saving you thousands of dollars on new installed units. Scout Program Management, a full-service construction firm that will take you from the pre-planning all the way to the finished product, located in Birmingham, Alabama, and they specialize in educational projects, but they can handle anything. So call on Scout Program Management Firm. They handle all of your projects out there, no matter what size that it is. Randy, Auburn stayed number one. We talked about it yesterday with Jason. Doesn't really matter. But this will be 5 consecutive weeks the Auburn Tigers stay at number one in the country.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you can maintain that, which Auburn has for an extended period of time, that's a really good thing. But, we got some things we got to clean up. That's clear as a bell after you watch on Saturday. There are some issues with this Auburn team at times on the offensive end that we got to clean up. But the most important thing is Auburn's not used to giving up 90-plus points a game against anybody, especially at home. I know this Florida team can score in bundles, and they can score it from the outside and the inside. I think all of us were a little worried, Brett. When you watch Florida play at their ceiling, they're as good as any of us playing at our ceiling. I just don't know that I've seen Auburn play to their ceiling so far this year. When you watch us, I mean, there's still – each night it feels like there's a little something that Auburn's missing, whether it be the perimeter game, whether it be Denver Jones at times that goes missing, some injury issues that we see down in the post that causes maybe Janai, who had 18 and 11. I'm not knocking him at all, but maybe just not as durable and as explosive as you would hope that he would be, hampered a little bit by that ankle injury. So that's the hope as an Auburn fan, though, that we're sitting here with the record that we have, still ranked number one with the ceiling and our best game out there in front of us. Just got to find a way to do it.
Yeah, just everybody that follows this show and follows college basketball knows what the rankings look like. But Florida moves up to number 3, and I'll stay with Florida a little bit. We've bragged on them. I think Todd Golden's done an outstanding job of building that program back to prominence. They received first place votes, and they deservingly did. And you look at it from a standpoint of a matchup problem. They were a matchup problem for us Saturday, and they're going to be a matchup problem again for us if we have to play them again. And we could play them in the SEC tournament like we did last year, depending on how the draws are and where you fall. We could play them in March in the NCAA tournament. I don't like that matchup at all. I think they're well put together. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make the Final Four if they get in the right bracket. They just have the complete team. I love their guards out there, and they had one of their best players that didn't even play against us Saturday and still scored in the 90s. So this is a team that we've been talking about for about 3 or 4 weeks being a game that we felt like, we knew we had Tennessee and we knew we had those teams, and Tennessee was a tough game. But I looked at it and I said, man, and Jason said the same thing. Going to be a tough game no matter where it was played, whether it would have been at Florida or Neville Arena. And they are a team that, again, top to bottom, may be the most complete team when you look at it. And I know we have the most depth, but you're right. I think you bring up a good point that I don't know that we put and which is good for us. We haven't put together a game that I can go by. I guess I could go back and look at some games, but the Houston game, you had to have Todd Petterford go off. Iowa State, you were down 17 and you fought back. This team showed a lot of different ways to win games. They can run away from teams and then kind of look like they go in the into lull mode. But from start to finish, good perimeter, good inside game, it's different every night for this team, which I guess can be really difficult for other teams to defend and figure out what you want to concentrate on. But right now, Florida, Alabama, and then Auburn moving up, if you look at it that way, and Alabama's number 1 in the coaches poll. And then you add Tennessee in there. I don't know that this isn't the best we've ever seen. We're going on the road tonight, Randy, to play a team that's 12-1 at home. I mean, ain't nobody would be surprised if – they've already beaten Tennessee at home. They've beaten they've beaten a lot of really good teams. They've already knocked off 2 top 10 teams at home. This is another one in Auburn. They're not scared. So this is a brutal league. And then you shift your focus to Saturday, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. And that's the first time in SEC history that'll be a number 1 and 2 matched up on Saturday. So it's just wild what's going on this year.
Well, it's a great SEC conference this year, but we got to win a championship. And I don't just mean Auburn. Of course, I would love to see Auburn do that. The SEC's got to win a national title, Brett. When's the last time we did that?
Well,
it's been quite some time.
In Kentucky.
So it's really hard to say that this is the best conference top to bottom. I think you can say that top to bottom, but the beauty of football so far, and it's not the beauty if you're an Auburn fan, but if you're a fan of the SEC, what Alabama and Georgia's done has always made us look like that we're the top conference in college football because we won national titles over and over and over again. And when we haven't won them, we've been in them. Now, they propped the rest of us up on top of those 2 great programs, along with LSU at times. Auburn's found their way a couple of times over the last 10 to 15 years. But for the most part, it's been those 2 programs carrying the banner. From the SEC standpoint in college basketball, we've had some tremendous teams, and Auburn's been right there at the top along with Tennessee and Alabama and Florida and Kentucky, but none of us have been able to get over the hump. So hopefully this year is the time that we do that, Brett. I went to Vandy a couple of years ago, so I was in that crowd when Auburn lost that game. We had chances throughout the game. We never shot it well. I never really got going that night, if you remember, and that is a really tough environment to play in. It's not the student bodies. It's just an old venue, a really odd dynamic with depth perception in that gym. I would struggle with it. The way that court's sitting up, it's a little weird. And Auburn went over there last year, though, and played really well. So, I mean, we've been able to win there. I'm not saying it's not something that can't be done. But this is a very good – have you watched much of Andy this year, bro?
I have. I've watched several of their games. And to kind of go back to what you were just saying – we've won 7 out of our last 8. I hate to say it, the one you went to is the one we lost.
Yeah.
All right, 7 out of 8 we've won, and then we had lost 13 in a row before this streak. Mm-hmm. So we haven't done well there historically. Or at Auburn. It didn't matter where we played them. So their program kind of hit a little bit of a lull, but they're back. And then this is a Vanderbilt team that when you look at it, man, they are worthy of the praise that they get. They've been on the road. They just played Florida on the road and played them very physically. And you heard Coach Pearl yesterday in the press conference say that he thinks Florida's the most physical team in this league. And Vanderbilt went to their place and played toe for toe physicality wise with them. So you know what you're going into. And we get caught up talking about size. And what Coach Pearl said, he said they're not lacking in size. they're lacking in length. So they aren't a very tall, lengthy team, but they're a very physical, put together team, strong, that's going to battle you. So don't mistake their lack of length for lack of physicality. So they're going to take it to Auburn. He talked about their ability to turn you over. And they do turn you over at a high rate. They're one of the top teams in the country at turnover ratio. So Auburn's got to protect the basketball. They got to be sharp. I'll tell you this, Randy, we got off to a very fast start against Florida, and we went into dormant mode. You know, tip your hat to Florida for withstanding that crowd and that environment to come back and take the lead and then really kind of take control of that game. But it had a lot to do with our energy. I had a lot of people, and I know you did too, talking about our energy level on Saturday. It just didn't seem like it was there at times. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know if we got off to a fast start and we kind of felt like it was going to be another runaway in Neville Arena. But for whatever happens, you gotta have intensity for 40 minutes in this league.
Well, if you're going to shoot as many three-pointers as Auburn shoots, you got to knock them down. And you got to knock them down at a high rate if you're going to play a team that's going to get into the 90s. And Auburn just goes through these little spells, and we've been doing this over the last 5 or 6 years where we just keep on jacking them up and they're not falling. And we don't look in the post quite as much as we could. Now, you could say that Janai being slightly hampered with an injury keeps us from maybe going down there as much, but you know, when I see him get the basketball, I know he doesn't get the calls, but a lot of good things happen when the ball rolls through Janai down in the post. And we had that happen a few times on Saturday where we did make a cognizant decision over, it seemed like on the sideline, to go, look, we've been down on this end of the court 3 or 4 times and we haven't gone through the best player in the country enough. Got to find a way to do that. Got to find a way to get our point guards both playing well at the same time. You know, Denver's been a little iffy offensively. I'm not questioning his effort defensively. He's one of the best defensive players in the country. But got to find a way to get him shots offensively because we need him maybe being a little bit more aggressive on the offensive end, going downhill, getting to the free throw line, Brett. I know we didn't knock down our free throws in the second half, and that hurt us. But Denver, to me, is just not as aggressive as we may need him. And if he's not going to be as aggressive as we need him, you may have to look at extended minutes for Tahad Pettifor. Get him in the basketball game a little earlier than we've seen and get him a few more minutes than we've seen. Maybe that's just me. Am I the only one thinking that way? I haven't watched a lot of other Auburn podcasts to see what others are thinking about our guard play. But, you know, guard play has been, I don't want to call it an issue, but it's been up and down. I'll put it that way since Jared Harper and Bryce Brown left the Plains. It's been, you hope that you get it night in and night out, but you don't know what you're going to get night in and night out.
Yeah, I think it starts and stops there. And like you, I know you said you haven't watched. I don't really watch any other podcasts. I don't need to watch them to know that Denver Jones can go for 12 one night and go for 0 the next. And that he was 0 for 4 shooting the basketball in a big-time game, and that's not enough shot attempts. Now, what that tells me is that he's a little timid, and on the offensive side, and again, I go back to this, and I've been kind of going with this theory, and it may be way off, but he expends a lot of energy on the defensive side, usually guarding the other team's best player and trying to shut them down. I don't know if that takes him out of his game, on the offensive side, but he only shot the ball 4 times. So when you only shoot the ball 4 times, you're really not a factor on the offensive side of the floor. Tahad Pettifor is the 3rd leading scorer on the team now, average. He's almost to 12 points a game average. And he's, minutes-wise, he's not in the top 5 minute-wise, top 6 minute-wise. I mean, when you look at Dylan Cardwell, Todd Pettiford's averaging about 21 minutes a game. You got Janai Broome at 28, Chad Baker-Mazar at 24, Miles Kelly at 26, Denver Jones 27, so considerable more minutes for Denver than it is to Todd. 23 for Chaney Johnson, 21 for Dylan Cardwell. I mean, he's way on down the list when it comes to minutes, but he's the 3rd leading scorer on the team points-wise. So Faith said this a couple of weeks ago. She would like to see Tahad get more minutes. I think that's where we are now. I know he's probably the nation's best sixth man coming off the bench, because technically he does come off the bench, but he'd be starting for most anybody else. Let's just be honest about it. So I'm with you and Faith. I think you got to see him in the game a little bit more. He'll go in streaks, like you said, but man, he has got whatever it is. And you hear coaches say that all the time. When the game's on the line, man, that guy's not afraid to take the shot. And I like it when he takes the shot, because more times than not in big moments this year, he's made them.
On the road too, Brett. He seems to play his best ball on the road against some of the best teams in the country, and that's hard to do. But back to Denver. When you only get 4 shots, yeah, you can say you're not aggressive enough, but the offense has to roll through you too. And Bruce Pearl, with this flex system that he has, which I really love, and I'm not knocking any of this, but you got to also know that certain players need certain looks, and we need more downhill looks from Denver. He's strong, he's durable. When he goes to the free throw line, what's he shooting? 85% plus. He's almost a 90% free throw shooter.
His free throw shooting percentage is 89.3.
You want him to the line, but you got to get downhill and get yourself to the line a little bit more. And, it takes games like Saturday for you to find some weaknesses, and there's not many with this team. I mean, this is the number 1 team in the country, and they've been the number 1 team in the country for 5 weeks. Brett and I are definitely not on here questioning this Auburn basketball team.
We're just analyzing. We're just analyzing the game.
But I've been touting Denver Jones all year, and I do think that but I think it takes games where you go, look at this stat line. CBM's another one. CBM's got to get that confidence back and get his shot totals up.
He's banged up, by the way.
Yeah, he is, but look at his shooting percentage, Brett. Guys like that need to find more shots. And sometimes it takes the offense going through them a little more and decisions made over on the sideline to go through them a little more. Now, look, this is me up here saying that I want the ball to work through Janai more, and then it's me saying that I'm not the coach, but I do know that Auburn can't leave a game against one of the best teams in the country, and you look down and the 2-point guards that's getting all the minutes only has somewhere between 12 and 16 points.
It's not enough.
The opposition's point or best guard in a big game like that, it'd be expected to get between 20 and 25. And you can't be doubled up, and we've had that happen too often in the last few years.
Well, let's talk about what Bruce Pearl said. You brought up Chad Baker-Mazara and Janai Broome. Let's talk about what he said yesterday. Number one, Janai Broome, he said, look, I can only speak for him, but he said he could have chosen to sit out, wait till this thing got 100%, but he wants to be on the floor, not because he's in the National Player of the Year talk. He wants to help his team. And he said it gets better. The ankle feels better every week, but he said it doesn't feel so good after every game. And so he's playing through a lot of pain. He's gritting it out. And so, yeah, it's easy to be critical. And, I thought Jason brought up a good point about fouls. If you look at Mark Sears with Alabama, he draws a lot of contact, gets to the line, because naturally when you drive in and you play the way he does, officials are already looking for it's a different kind of foul. When your back's against the basket like Janai, you're getting hit. You're getting pounded. You spin, somebody rakes your arm. But they don't call that as much as a guy full-fledged or full speed going down the lane and getting hit. So it's 2 different styles, which one draws more attention from officials than the other. All right, that's Janai Broome. Chad Baker-Mazara, as Coach Pearl said yesterday, is banged up. He said, and we don't try to advertise that because they know that he's a target. And we've been talking about this for a long time, that he is a target. It's part of team's game plan, not only to knock him around from a physicality standpoint because he is thin, but to also get him out of his game mentally. And so they try to keep that close to the vest on that. And, he's having to do some rehab and some things, but he's not 100% either. I mean, again, it goes back to the physicality of this league and what you're having to battle through. But at the end of the day, both of those guys, as you look across the stat line, Janai Broome leads in almost every stat column. Outside of steals, he leads in points, rebounds, and assists. average coming across, and that's Janai Broome. Okay, so you've got to have those two guys playing at their best or close to their best if this team is to advance to the peak of where we think it can advance to.
Well, that's because I think there are 6 or 8 teams that are really outstanding college basketball teams this year. They could win and maybe we say that every year, Brett, but I think the parity.
I'm not sure. I think you're right. I think this is maybe more than ever.
I think so too.
Ever.
When I watched UConn play last year, I knew
they were the better team.
Something's going to have to happen for them to lose. In a big game, they could lose the 18th game of the year on the road at Dayton. I mean, I'm just bringing one.
They could lose like Auburn did Saturday.
Sure. It can happen, but when all the chips are on the table, that team looked like it was the best basketball team. I don't know that I'll watch one this year and think that, including Auburn. Now, if Auburn played at their ceiling one game, I do think we have the best team, top to bottom. But we haven't seen our ceiling yet. And maybe we never get there. And maybe our opinion of the ceiling for Auburn's a little higher at being Auburn fans than it really is. But I think I could sit here, and I'll do that right now, and then you do it back to me. There's 6 or 8 teams that I've watched a lot of this year that could win a national title. 1's Auburn, 2's Alabama, 3, of course, is Florida with what I've seen. Tennessee definitely can when they're defending you really well, and their point guard plays the way that he did on Saturday. They can win it. I still think UConn can win it because of how well they're coached. When I watch them play, they're not winning all their games this year, but I don't want to play them in March.
They look like they're going to be like an 8 or 9 seed, and I don't think anybody wants that.
No. Houston, I don't want to play Houston again.
Iowa State.
Iowa State's lost 3 in a row until they came back this past Saturday and got back in the win column. But that's a very and the reason we bring all of these teams up is I think all of them are built defensively. Outside of Florida and Alabama, which those 2 teams are long enough to still make it, but they're going to win games against you like Florida did against us at home, 90 points. They're still going to score 90. When we go over to Tuscaloosa, that Ole Miss game that they beat Alabama, that's an outlier. That Alabama team, you're going to have to beat them 88-83. I mean, you got to know going in that you got to shoot the ball and you're going to have to score the basketball because they're going to. But there are some other teams that are so good defensively and so well coached, like Houston, Iowa State, and Auburn, that defensively they can grind you out. Is there anybody else you've watched? I probably missed a couple that are deserving. I watched a lot of Kansas. I'm not a big Kansas fan.
We didn't even say Duke.
Duke is right there with us, but they're so single player.
But I mean, I don't even think we have to list anybody else. I think you just went through about 8 or 9 teams, and that to me is all you need to say, that any of those 8 or 9, and maybe even somebody else, if they get the right draw, can win a national title this year. So to be number 1, all right, it's like the Heisman Trophy. Each year's different. Some years you can give it to all 3 guys that make it, and then there's one guy other years it's just clearly the best player in college football. But this year, I mean, you look at the Heisman Trophy, you could have probably given it to Ashton Jeanty. Travis Hunter got it, but Ashton Jeanty on any other year would have probably run away with it. So it's year to year. Here's the point I'm making. Auburn has won during all of this. So to be number 1 this year, probably not to discredit UConn, and they've won 2 national titles, but the country is more even and has better teams, it looks like, than average years, right? And that's kind of where
I think that is.
I don't know, but I want to read this off. And then when you look at the standings in the SEC, it just makes what Bruce Pearl said yesterday. I mean, it just solidifies it. The first place team, the number 2 team, the number 3 team, the number 5 team, the number 8 team, the number 15 team, the number 19 team, the number 21 team, and the number 22 team are all in the conference. And guess who is up there that's not ranked? Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is ahead of Kentucky. Kentucky's ranked 15th. They're not even ranked yet. How are they not ranked at 17-6? I mean, it's because any other year, a Vanderbilt team that was 5-5 in league play and 17-6 to be in the top 25. There's not room for them. So it goes to the point of what we're saying. And again, we've got a lot of basketball left to play, and I'm not ready to – you don't crown anybody a champion in the beginning of February, but Auburn's the number one team in the country for the 5th consecutive week in what looks like one of the toughest years ever in college basketball. And Alabama's right on our heels. I mean, they're number one in the coaches poll. Auburn is number 2 in the coaches poll, and then Alabama's number 2 here in the AP poll when you look at it from that standpoint. And it sets up Saturday, and I know Alabama's got to play Texas, and we got to play Vanderbilt tonight, and we're not looking past that. But Saturday, regardless of what happens against Vanderbilt and Texas, is going to be a first. It'll be a number 1 versus a number 2, or number 1 versus number 1, however you want to call it, ever in the history of this in this conference. And I'm telling you, man, this is stuff that we were used to growing up, Randy, seeing with Duke, North Carolina. It wasn't uncommon to see Duke, North Carolina matchup be number 1 and number 2, or in the top 5, and that's what built that rivalry up. But we're looking at a first, man. This is historic coming up Saturday.
And I don't think it's the last. I think these two teams are just hitting their stride. You know, I said this about Alabama a couple of years ago, Brett. When Brandon Miller left, I looked at you. I said, they're about to come back to earth. They're going to lose 10 or 12 basketball games. Not going to be quite as good. May take them a couple of years to get back.
I was hoping you were right.
I was way wrong. I was way, way wrong. And then Alabama goes to the Final Four. You look at Bruce Pearl, some of our best years have been years where we just go out with Jabari and Walker and some players that we pull in to go along with maybe if we'd had a little bit better guard play that year, we would have had a better run when we got to the NCAA tournament. But we got to number 1 that year too, Brett. So my point is, I don't think the days, as long as Nate Oates is at Alabama and Bruce Pearl's at Auburn, that we've seen the last top 5 matchup with these two programs. I think it's only going to continue to go. We're not going anywhere. We're not. And that's something that Luke's been harping to me and you about, as we say, let's pinch ourselves. And we always talk about, you know, where Auburn was and where we are now. Man, this has been a long run for this Auburn and Alabama program to get to where we are and where we're going to be on Saturday. Your thoughts? When we got a couple more minutes, Brett, your thoughts on Alabama? It's not our job to just stay with us here tonight.
I hate them. That's my thought.
I know that is. Have you watched much of them? What do you think of their team?
Yeah, I've seen them. I think Mark Sears hadn't played up to standard that everybody thought. He was the National Player of the Year going in, I think, and he's not in that race. And look, as much as it pains me to say it, tip your hat to Nate Oates for saying, look, you can come sit over here with me for a half, and we'll win or lose without you. I don't care what you were coming into the season. And so I gained some respect for Nate Oates for benching Mark Sears and saying, look, you know, we got to have you be the Mark Sears we had last year going down the stretch, not this version of you. And look, everybody needs a little wake-up call from time to time. All of us do. It doesn't matter what skill set level you have and how good you are. And Mark Sears got that, and he's played better since that, okay? He woke him up. I think losing Latrell Wrightsell, I thought that was going to be extremely devastating for them. It has not been.
Aiden Holloway shot it so well that he's made up for it.
Well, I was going to say, here's the deal, and I was going somewhere with that. We wouldn't be seeing as much of Aiden Holloway if Latrell Wrightsell was healthy.
Good point.
There's no place for him on the floor.
Yeah, it's great.
He has answered the bell. Unfortunately, we don't like to say that, but he's answered the call now that he's had an opportunity to get on the floor. I think LeBaron Philon has an extremely high ceiling. I wish we had him on our team. We had him committed for a while, but he's also a guy that can go out there and lay a goose egg. I've seen him in several big games literally be a zero factor for Alabama. But Youngblood, to me, is the difference maker for them. He's their three-point assassin now. I haven't even talked about Grant Nelson yet, and obviously Grant Nelson's a massive part of what they do. But to me, Grant Nelson, they've got an outstanding starting 5. And then when you look at Mark Sears not playing up to par, and you add him in there, and this is a Final Four team again for for Alabama. So we'll welcome Faith in here and bring her in, Randy, as you get ready. But that's my analysis of Alabama. I mean, you know what you're getting, and that crowd it'll be their best crowd of the year. They can say whatever they want, but it'll be their best crowd. And we're going to try to get as many fans in there as we possibly can. And then they'll have to return to us on March the 8th. So this is the first of 2 really exciting basketball games. And who knows? That game at the end of the year on March 8th in Neville Arena could be for the SEC regular season championship.
I think there's a really good chance that it will. And Faith, glad to have you here. For one, let me promote what y'all were doing yesterday. We've got an on the road show for those of you that are high school sports fans here in the state of Alabama that Faith and Brett host. They were on the road this past week right here in Auburn, where the girls and the boys are heading to the regional. So tune that in on WOTM, Brett, as well as all of our social media outlets. Drive Safe Alabama and AlDOT are our key sponsors on that, and just wanted to promote that to everybody out there that likes watching and seeing some of the facilities, some meeting spots around the state, and some great high school sports that are going on around the state. I'll promote my 2 businesses right here in the Auburn area. By the way, we'll be open with our new location in Auburn next week. We'll open up on Monday. So got a little bit more to do this week, but Lee Apparel and Sign Source have a new location on Opelika Road in Auburn. I'm sitting here now, and you'll see some signage going up this week. But Sign Source can handle anything from the start design of a sign all the way to the install. And that's vehicle wraps to digital signs. You'll see us with a digital board out here on Opelika Road. So call on Sign Source for that. From athletic uniform, screen printing, embroidery, promotional products, Lee Apparel, 20 plus years that we've handled that. Our phone number for both of those divisions is 256-825-0197. R&B Sports Media is not on here. That's our last LMG division, and I'll let y'all 2 promote that because y'all are seeing a lot of people. This podcast is part of that. The HSA Radio Network is part of that. Auburn Blitz and Sports Blitz is part of that. So if you're looking to advertise your brand or your business throughout the state of Alabama, now with a podcast nationally, give us a call. Brett, Faith can take care of you there. I'll step aside. Thank y'all.
Bye, Randy.
See you, buddy. What's up?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Just rocking and rolling this morning here on a Tuesday, game day.
Got my Auburn basketball
look at
shirt
there.
on.
Yeah, you don't have your hat on, though.
I know. It didn't match.
Didn't match, so fans will have to wait for the hat game again. But you are getting the compliments on the hat. So want to talk about one other partner that we've added, and that's Sure Shot in Alexander City. Look, deer season is now officially over. But now's the time to go and look at. They got some great deals on some rifles and some different shotguns and things. And you need to call them 256-329-0080. Faith, they've got unbelievable supply of camo for all the different types of hunting seasons. We got turkey season coming up. They've also, and Scott wanted to pass this along for all you outdoor men and women out there. They have the Browning SA-22 rifle in stock, and they are extremely hard to find. So if you have a need or you have an addiction to buying guns, which a lot of you out there I know do, they do have the SA-22 rifles in stock, the BL-22 and the 22 LR. So you make sure you go to Sure Shot, call them, Firearms, Apparel, Hunting. They'll handle all of it for you. Make sure you go up there and see them here in Alexander City, and we appreciate them. We'll get to some more of our partners here in just a little bit. You and I had a great time yesterday over at Auburn High School, covering some high school sports, and we do want to encourage people to tune us in. It was good to have you back on the show yesterday, Faith. It was a lot of fun, and we got to go hang out at Bunkers, and everybody will get to see us, and we didn't really put any of our golf skills on camera. We didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So we encourage you to go out to Bunkers in downtown Auburn and showcase your skills to your buddies, your family, whatever it is. And then the food is outstanding. Faith did a phenomenal job of selecting what we were going to eat, and it was outstanding. So, Faith, what else can you add to that?
Yeah, it was good to be back. It was 3 months of, I guess, being away from doing on the road, which is
I
crazy. I
told you, I
mean,
said, welcome back after 3 months. You went, has it been that long? I said, it has been that long.
yeah, it did not feel that long. But yeah, it was great to be back, and it's always fun. And, I was talking to Maddie when you were doing some filming and stuff, and we were talking, and it's just crazy that when you're in high school sports are your whole life. And
Consumes you.
watching those kids just, even in practice, just compete together and, all those kinds of things. Um, it's so crazy that that is just so your life and so consuming. And so for a lot of those kids, it's, um good morning. Good morning, Lucy. But for a lot of those kids, it's their whole life, and talking to them, they are super, super driven.
And,
So
I'll
yeah.
say this, it's a little sad that we rushed that part of life because that is, you don't get that back. And, I know now with people graduating early and doing different things, it's like, man, why do we want to rush these kids? And, but I get it. I know it's the new day and age of getting enrolled early. I mean, at Benjamin Russell, Sadarian Morgan, um, you know, played his last home game at sub-regional this past Saturday because he won't be at Benjamin Russell for basketball season next year because he's going to early enroll wherever it is that he's going to end up going. So, you got to look at that, so that was his technically last home game as a junior. And you get caught up in these moments and you and I see them, like you said, and man, it's a special time. It takes us back to high school and how good those days were. There's plenty of time to be an adult out here in this world. So cherish those days. We got a lot of comments. I haven't gotten any of them yet, Face. So let's go through some of these. Shaker Jack, you asked me Friday. Any update on the QB from Catholic? Thanks again for all of what we do. And we thank you guys. It's our pleasure that you guys tune us in. My grandfather and I both love the show. Shaker, I got news that that Kingston Pre-Year has enrolled at Benjamin Russell High School. So Kingston Pre-Year has transferred to Benjamin Russell High School. So he is now a Wildcat. He is not at Catholic. So there's an official. I told you to hold on Friday that there was some stuff coming. So he is enrolled and saw him Saturday at Benjamin Russell. He's excited about the move. And again, there'll be some more information coming on some changing and some stuff like that. But man, Benjamin Russell immediately got better with his transfer, and so watching the possibility of Kingston Pre-Year and Sadarian Morgan, next year on the football field, or this year, really in 25, going to be fun to watch. Kyle said Bruce going to have to bite the bullet and play Ja'Kai Howard. He brings something to the game that no one else can. If he gains confidence, he becomes the X factor, in my opinion. Kyle, I agree and disagree with you in the fact that, yes, we need another player. We need another game-changing player, and he is a game-changing player, but he's got to be in the flow of the game with the plan on the court. He's got to be a true team player. He can't be an individual out there doing his thing. And he's got to be somebody that Auburn can rely on, that Bruce Pearl can rely on to be a guy that can be unselfish with the basketball and do the things that he needs to do to make this team better, because him just down there in the coffin corner waiting for the ball to try to take a guy one-on-one is not helping this team win.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that the little that we did get to watch him, what game was that he hopped in on at home?
Was it Oklahoma? Was it Oklahoma?
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Yep.
The little that we did get to watch him, I mean, he goes in and he just goes straight for the shot. Whatever shot he's gonna take or he can take, he's gonna take it. And I think with some of those actual games that, we need him in or something like that, um, we can't have that because he didn't make that many shots that he was putting up. And the way that we've been rebounding, I mean, it's not that bad, but we can't afford to miss some of those shots against these good teams like Alabama and even Vanderbilt.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think, yes, he needs to be engaged in off the court, things, but also we just can't afford to put up so many shots and just not they didn't
This
look
isn't
like they
AAU
were
basketball.
yeah, they didn't look like they were wise shots, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Well, they weren't.
Yeah,
They weren't. I
so
mean,
why are we
he's
going in with 3 guys that are crashing on you and you're expecting to get the foul and then
right.
you don't hustle back, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think, that again, it comes down to, are you going to play hard on the floor? Again, like Denver Jones, he didn't have a good night shooting the basketball against Florida, but you can't ever talk about
Hustle.
his hustle and his defensive play. So
His
he's
defensive play is
he's an asset. He's an
right.
asset.
I was listening to y'all, before I hopped on, and yes, it looks like he sometimes is exerting all of his energy and everything
Right.
on the defense because he is, sometimes playing um, the best the
Oh,
best
he
guard
is.
on the other team, and, um, that makes up for some of his he did not contributing as much on the offensive side. But then there are some nights where he is on and he is making 12 or putting up 12 points.
Oh, absolutely.
But I would like to see him be more consistent. And yes, I think Tahad has shown that he has been very consistent early on and as a freshman with putting points up.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, Faith, and give a little props to you. 3 weeks ago, you said you wanted to see Todd Pettiford get the ball, get in the game more minutes. He is now the third leading scorer at points average wise, but he's like seventh on the team in minutes.
Right.
So I mean, I think it's a must that that Coach Pearl find a way to get him into the game more.
I
And
would
maybe
like to ask Coach Pearl and really know the kind of logic behind that, I guess. He must be doing something right, Coach Pearl, because we've been playing so
right.
well.
I
But
think it's defensively. Faith, here's what I think it is. And I think, look, I'm not Bruce Pearl, obviously. I wish I had his money, um, but Bruce Pearl, and I just know Coach Pearl well enough and know what he places as a priority in his defense. I think when you weigh Todd Pettiford and what he brings to the game offensively and what Denver brings to the game defensively, Auburn wins games because they shut teams down. That they can sacrifice a little bit on the offensive side to have an outstanding smothering defense, and that's why Denver plays and Tahad comes off the bench as the sixth guy, because his defense, Tahad's defense, is not up to the level of Denver Jones. And then if you put Miles Kelly out there, he's a guy that's can give you 15 a game. You normally a strong Janai Broom's going to give you 18 to 23 to 24 points a game. Chad Baker Mazzara, who is the second leading scorer on the team, is going to give you 12 to 15 points a game. We've got offense. We've got
right.
plenty of guys that can provide the points. We can't afford to have poor perimeter defense. And I'm not saying Tahad plays poor defense. I'm just saying that Denver plays better defense than he does.
Right. I think so too. And again, he is a freshman. Seeing him next year, if there's a huge improvement on that defensive side for him, obviously that will, I hope, change a lot of his minutes and those kind of things. But so I just question sometimes. I know that Chad and Cheney all have
I
the
haven't even talked
length.
about Chaney Johnson yet. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
they
right.
all have the length, but sometimes it just when I think about it, the games that they're not hot and the games that they are not really
You know what we haven't seen very much of this year? A three-guard offense. A Miles Kelly, Denver Jones, Tahad Pettiford style offense. We haven't
Yeah.
seen that very much. Do we see that possibly in some of these games? I think, again, it's matchups. I mean, matchups predicate your personnel on the floor. Could we see that possibly? If we feel like we need to get another guy on the floor that can provide, some offensive prowess, I think that would be something that Bruce Pearl might do.
Who has kind of been your guy this year that if the offense is just not looking like they are meshing and really, really gelled together, who has kind of been the guy that you've said, just put it in his hands and I trust it?
If it's not Janai Broome, which is the obvious answer there, it's Todd Pettiford. In big games, Iowa State, Houston, I can go down the list.
Has it been Janai Broome recently for you?
Ole Miss, yeah.
Okay.
Ole Miss, yeah. I think that was important that, what he did in that game. Again, I didn't expect him to play to the level he played. And again, I think that's part of the reason why we won that game was the inside presence that we had. So, yeah, I mean, but not to the let's just take him out of the mix. Let's not use him. Let's not even make him eligible in this conversation. It's Todd Pettiford, man. And I know he's a true freshman, but I don't know if there's anybody on the floor I would rather have taken the last shot of a game than him. Maybe Miles Kelly, but it would be one of those two, even over Chad Baker-Mazara, because they are so confident in their shot. And look, you've got to be confident in this game. Basketball, if you're second guessing or you're hesitant on your shot and your motion, you're going to miss. Look, I think that's what's wrong with JP Pegues. Let's all remember JP Pegues was supposed to be a massive part of this team. He was a big pickup in the portal. And, man, he doesn't even get in. I mean, we saw that glimpse of him in what game was that, Oklahoma? That he got in for like 2 minutes?
That was in Oklahoma. That was.
Well, he got in for something. It was so quick that he was out, and it was like, did y'all see that? And like, was that a JP Pegues sighting? We were all kind of on a text thread, and we're like, and then it was so quick that a lot of people didn't even know he was there, but he did get in for like 2 minutes. But going back to that, I mean, you're missing a guy that you thought was going to be a major contributor to this team, and he doesn't even get any minutes. So Todd Pettiford is very confident. Not going to make them all, but boy, he makes a lot of big ones. And I like what he does as a confident freshman and a unselfish guy, because he could start for most anybody else, and he knows that he's coming off the bench as the sixth man on this team. That tells me all I need to know about him as a person. So, again, not knocking Ja'Kai Howard, and not – I know people probably think when you and I get on here, we start talking about Ja'Kai Howard and we go down this rabbit hole. But here's the deal. If you look at – both of them are true freshmen. One's handling this a whole different way than the other one is. And Todd Pettiford's not starting. He's sitting over there on the bench like Ja'Kai Howard. And so one's embraced it and one hasn't. Let's just be honest about it. Let's just call it like it is. And all right, Shaker Jack, we're kind of bouncing around right here. We ain't even got to Vanderbilt yet.
Wait, I think it was Oklahoma that he played. I just wanted to put that.
You just got to reconfirm that I was right. So,
yes, I did.
Okay.
I didn't want to.
I was going to just kind of sit back and sit. I knew you were looking at it, so
yeah.
I was just going to let everybody else know. Okay. All right. So Shaker Jack's talking about again. We'll talk about Vanderbilt here in just a minute. Caleb Spivey is now the number 53 ranked player in the 27 class. The number 8 player in the state of Alabama, and the number 5 defensive end in the country, according to On3, according to Rivals. So that's another player on this Benson Russell team. This team is loaded with 4- and 5-star guys up here, and so yeah, Shaker Jack, it's going to be a tough team to stop over the next couple of years in the Benjamin Russell Wildcats. Auburn definitely in on all these guys, and that's why we bring them up here on this show. Is they've got a I mean, they're 35 minutes up the road, and Malcolm Simmons right now on the team is poised to be an unbelievable player this year in a loaded wide receiver room, by the way. A lot of praise coming out of the player-only workouts about Eric Singleton. And, you had Horatio Fields from Wake Forest, and then you have Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Bryce Kane, Malcolm Simmons, all those guys coming back. Faith, this wide receiver room is stupid. I mean, it is stupid good. And if we can get a quarterback, whether it be Jackson Arnold or Deuce Knight or whoever the heck it is, to just distribute the football. We don't need them to feel like they've got to be the guy that has to go out and win the game with their ability. Now, they can win it. You want them to be able to win it, but just get the ball to the playmakers. Let them go win the games. And Auburn's got, again, one of the strongest wide receiver rooms in the country. Let's see what they can do. I mean, you got 4 potential pros, NFL guys lining up at wide receiver. It is hard for defenses to figure out how they want to defend that, but the quarterback's got to get the football to them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same conversation we've had for how many years? How long? How many weeks have we had the same conversation on here? And again, it's one of those things where I'm going to believe it when I see it. And
Missouri, Show Me State, the Show Me State.
Yeah.
That's me.
And that's kind of all I can say on that is I want the best for all of them. And I would like to see Deuce Knight. So that's
a lot of, he's, the rumor is on him, and just not rumor, but from some of the players and talking about how much bigger he's gotten already since he's gotten on campus, getting in this weight program. Again, you saw Omar Matson sign in this class, and it's an example of what we were talking about. He reclassified from 26 to 25, foregoing that senior year that we just talked about, the special moments of playing in high school and cherishing your days. But Hugh right on point here, says, I guess I'd be in a hurry too, also to get what CD, and that's Sedarian, is poised to get in college. Yeah, I mean, these kids not only want to get the NIL stuff going, they want to get in a workout program, and if they can get there a year early, Sedarian's different than Omar, in that Omar knows he's coming into a running back room where he will probably play some, but he wants to get in there and get in that weight program and get stronger, even stronger than he is, and enhance his skills and go ahead and get in this college program. So Darren Morgan, wherever he goes, will start probably day one. He's the best receiver in the country. When you look at him, and I get to watch him every week play basketball, he is a man. He is a grown man. I mean, he's 6'5". He is built. He weighs 215 pounds. I mean, he looks like a defensive end out there playing wide receiver, and he's just, the complete athlete. So, he's going to get to the college game, and he's going to contribute immediately. But like Omar, you're going to get there, and you want to get in a program that's going to build you up and prepare you for the next 2 or 3 years. He said, Hoke, talk about Justin Hokanson, reported this morning Alex McPherson's surgery went well, but a long way to go. Towns was intimidated by the rush last year, but always kicked well in practice. Yeah, and his kickoffs were great too. I mean, you got to remember, a true freshman, a lot of pressure, wasn't expecting to be the guy last year and had to jump into that role because of Alex McPherson's condition. So our thoughts and prayers continue to be with Alex. Again, nobody wanted to be out there more than him. One of the best kickers in the country, had a year stolen away because of this crap he's having to deal with this gastrointestinal situation. And, hopefully this surgery corrected that problem. But again, he lost a ton of weight, and, your health's the most important thing, right out of the gate, and then everything else is secondary. So we hope for Alex that he'll get back and he'll get to the point where he can come back out to play for Auburn and kick like we know he can. He said D-line last year was not able to free the edge to rush. We had problems at 3 and 4 technique positions. Hey, look, we added some really good pieces. You heard Jason Caldwell yesterday say that he feels like our defensive line faith is going to be really, really strong this year. And you look at adding Jordan Crawford and Antonio Coleman, and I can go down the list. Auburn just loaded it down with defensive linemen. It's one of the best defensive line classes I think we've had in years. And you go add to what we already have with Keldrick Falk and some of those guys, man, I'm excited. And Malik Blockton, who had a great freshman year, this is a strength of this team. And you talked about it yesterday with the Philadelphia Eagles, how great Philadelphia was on the defensive and offensive line. That's where you win football games.
Absolutely. We talked about that yesterday. Just how big those guys were and how, you think back to the Derek Brown days and Fairley days, and those guys were just they were so big and so good with their hands on the line. Right. I mean, those are just kind of on both the offensive and defensive line. You kind of have to just, I feel like, recruit, but also get those boys that are big and that get them, bigger. And I loved hearing that they were doing Taekwondo to be able to move through and, get to the quarterback. And I hope that's something that we're still doing. But yeah, those are, we just haven't seen a very good offensive line in a while, which
I hope that's different this year for sure.
Because why wouldn't our quarterback be running around like they're getting chased by the opposing defensive line that's huge and going to go tackle him?
Right.
It also a quarterback can't make a good play without good guys around him.
Ask Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Can't make plays when you're on your back.
Right. And as much as that's, we've got the good wide receivers, we also need a good offensive line to protect our quarterback to be able to make those decisions.
And that got better too.
Yeah.
That got better too. And speaking of defense, DJ Durkin signed an extension, which I thought was massive. DJ Durkin and what Auburn defensively did this past year he just got better and better as the year went on. I thought the secondary, I mean, man, you started off the season, you were a little concerned, and the concerned areas got better and better. Now he's going to get a raise up to around $2.5 million as a base salary. It's making him one of the highest paid assistant coaches in the country. But guess what? You can't afford to lose guys like that produce results. And Auburn lost. Auburn's record was terrible this year, but what was consistent about Auburn was defense. And defensively, Auburn was in every football game because, the way he was able to develop players on that side of the football. We talk about development, lack of development from the quarterback position over the last 20-something years at Auburn. What I witnessed with that defense is a DJ Durkin. I know it's just not him, but he and his staff developed players. Like Keldrick Falk has gotten better every year. And you look at the secondary, they got better every game. So you got to have great coordinators. And I think consistency, Derek Nick staying, DJ Durkin staying, that's your two main assistant coaches. And consistency also is key when you want to build a product like Auburn's trying to build. So you're not trying to replace another coordinator. You're not trying to go out and figure out a new philosophy and all this kind of stuff. And you're not trying to build new relationships. These guys know each other. And I know we've lost some assistants. I know Charles Kelly left and we've lost some other guys, but we've replaced them. But to me, the two key guys are your offensive and defensive coordinator outside of your head coach, obviously. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you.
DJ Durkin, I think he's a massive keep there. Look, Ronnie, I don't know what you're talking about there. I'm not going to go into any speculation. I don't know anything. Look, I'm not I don't know what you're talking about. Justin said, I know one thing for certain. Those guys have got to stop driving the ball inside and expecting a foul. Play through till you hear the whistle, and if you don't get it, get back on D. And I think he's probably referring to Chad Baker-Mazara. And a lot of guys are, I've been on text threads during games. You and I've been talking, Faith, and other people say, gets in there and then he's on the floor and just rolling around. And, now we're down a guy on the other side of the floor. And, I know he's banged up. I heard Coach Pearl, but you got to play. If you don't get the foul, you got to get back. And
that was the same thing I was talking to you about when I went to the actual Ole Miss game, and I was there, and Janai obviously had been coming back partially still injured and everything. And I thought we were going to get beat all from that when we were playing Ole Miss, because it wasn't just him too, but it's true. The amount of time that is wasted by staying on the floor and not getting up and hustling back over there. I really thought that was going to be a big problem during that Ole Miss game, and the same thing during Florida. And I think that is what got us, because you've got someone on two guys, and how easy is that for a good team like Florida, who's physical and really gets in there to just make something happen when we've got someone all the way on the other side.
Yeah, I think you bring in all kind of good points there. I think we've got to look. You're not going to be on the floor long if you don't play defense and you don't get back. That's where it starts and stops for Bruce Pearl. You got to score points, obviously, but defensively, there's no room for lackadaisical play. Kind of sounded like Zion Williamson there. Couldn't get it out. You can't be. You got to have intensity on defense, and you'll come sit over there by him if you're not. And I think, again, I go back to the difference between Tahad and Jakai. Maybe the effort's not quite there on both sides of the floor, and Tahad's playing unselfishly. I mean, he's coming off the bench knowing he probably could start for anybody else, and he's willing to take on that role. And he's got to work to get better. If he works to get better on the defensive side of the ball, Faith, your wish may come true. You may see Tahad more coming down the stretch. Yeah, Ronnie, I'll look into what you're saying. I haven't heard any of this, and I'm probably not going to go down that rabbit hole here on this show because it really didn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. But I'll be glad to look into it. I'm not saying something did or didn't happen, but all right. So getting close to the end here, Faith, let's talk about a couple more of our partners here on the program. And we just added Oliver Ross, and Oliver Ross is a full service bartending service that will come out to your event. They serve all types of sizes of events, from 30,000 people to 500 people. Licensed and insured, they'll come to you. They'll provide the full service that you need. You need to go check out Oliver Ross and go to their website, and we'll throw that up there for everybody to see, so you can contact them. But I have been to plenty of functions where Oliver Ross, they were there and they provided the bar service. They've been in business since 2018. They've worked a bunch of Auburn University events, sorority and fraternity parties, weddings, events like Buckmasters in Montgomery, which is a massive event. So they've worked all sizes of events. So they bring certified bartenders, and they are licensed and insured. So make sure you check out Oliver Ross for your next party and your next event, whatever it is that you got going on. Make sure you check them out. Obviously, again, Sensa Green for air that's cool and clean. Call on Sensa Green. We couldn't do the show without them. And then Scout Program Management, located in Birmingham, a full-service construction management firm that specializes in educational projects, school builds, renovations, things of that nature, and then bunkers on West Glen in downtown Auburn. One of mine and Faith's favorite places to go have lunch and to hang out and play golf. And I got to see that Faith sandbagged on me and that she really can hit a golf ball, and she is pretty doggone good. So not that I ever doubted Faith's ability. I never doubted her her ability. And just like all of the people that are demanding your hat game to come back, Faith, nobody is doubting your style either. So
Yes.
you got your vintage shirt again on today.
Hey, saying vintage, it's my dad's from when he went to college here. So
let's not talk about that then. Okay.
Yeah.
So we won't be throwing any years out there, but the Auburn garb looks good. You got it rolling today. So that's good. All right. Let's see. He said Cole Pinkston played Coach Johnson and vouched for his character. That's all I need. They're going back and forth. I'll let you guys go back and forth on this thread here. Let's talk about Auburn and Vanderbilt tonight. Lyndon will be in the house. We should have got Lyndon to pull in on this show. Well, I tell you what, if Auburn wins, we'll get Lyndon to jump on with us tomorrow. Faith, how about that?
I like that.
She'll be there at the game, and so we'll get a report from her. So she'll be will she be wearing orange and blue tonight? Her husband coaches for Vanderbilt. He doesn't coach basketball. He's track and field. So, but she's obviously massive Auburn tonight. Will she wear the orange and blue in there? I feel confident that Lyndon will wear orange and blue tonight, and they're supporting the Tigers.
I have no idea. I hope that she's wearing orange and blue. But yeah, I definitely would love to have her on tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna send her a message here shortly, and we're gonna have her on. Hey, regardless of what happens, she'll bring a good story. But hopefully the game will go Auburn's way again. Vanderbilt tonight. This is a team that's 12-1 at home. Auburn is an 8.5 point favorite, actually a 9.5 point favorite now. They were an 8.5 point favorite. They are a 9.5 point favorite in Nashville, that's pretty big. They've got a 82.9% chance on the ESPN matchup predictor. When you look at it, you look at Jason Edwards. For them, he averages 17.6 points per game. He's a 45% shooter from the field. I thought what Bruce Pearl said yesterday, Faith, was on point. You and I and Lyndon have talked about the size of Vanderbilt. He said they don't lack size. He said they lack length. And he said they're as physical as anybody will play. He said he looked at what they did when they went to Florida, and they played toe-to-toe physically with Florida on the road. Tells you what you're going to get here at tonight when Auburn rolls into Nashville. So don't mistake their length for not being physical. They turn people over. Again, they've beaten 2 top 10 teams in Nashville this year. Auburn's going to have to play well, and they're going to have to play well for 40 minutes if they want to get out with a win. And I know everybody's looking to Saturday, and it's historic, and it's number 1 versus number 2, and it's the first time we've ever had that happen in this conference. And it happens to be Auburn and Alabama, which makes it even more crazy. But Auburn's got to play tonight and got to concentrate on Vanderbilt before they shift their focus to Alabama.
Yeah, you can't just throw this game underneath the rug. They've got wins against Kentucky and Tennessee.
If you throw it under the rug, you'll be under the rug.
Exactly, so. Yeah. But they've got 2 big wins against those 2 really good teams at home. So you've kind of just we've got to go back to how we know we can play and how we've been able to play recently, and take what we learned from Florida. Again, it's a quick turnaround, so hopefully everyone's going to be in better shape than how they were kind of banged up a little bit. But yeah, I think Auburn has the ability for sure to win this game and kind of get their their mojo back before heading to Alabama.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's look at this schedule tonight. My gosh. Auburn and Vanderbilt at 6. You said yesterday, Florida, Mississippi State. Watch that one. Florida travels to the Hump. That's a matchup of number 3 versus number 22. That's at 6 o'clock. That'll be on ESPN2. We'll be on the SEC Network. Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee going to Kentucky. Look, I know Kentucky hadn't had the year that they wanted, but 16-7. They're at Rupp Arena. And Tennessee, we've seen them kind of go in the tank offensively. Let's see how that plays out. That game starts at 6. All 3 of those games at 6. And then you got Alabama going to Texas at 8 o'clock, and then Georgia and Texas A&M. Hey, Texas A&M are all of a sudden is number 8 in the country. So they're not getting talked about a lot because Florida and Auburn and Tennessee and Alabama just happen to all be in the top 5 or 6, and then there they are sitting at 8. I mean, you're a good basketball team and you're like 5th or 6th down the line. And but man, what a slate of games on this Tuesday for everybody. And we get it started with Florida and Mississippi State as well at 6, along with Tennessee and Kentucky. So that's 3 unbelievable games on a Tuesday night, Faith.
No kidding. The multi-view screen is going to be on the TV. Yeah, I'm excited to see Florida go to Mississippi State. I know I've talked about that, but the Hump is a hard place to play at. And obviously, I would really like to see Florida lose just because we just got beat pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be sad. Look, you obviously want Florida to lose. You want Tennessee to lose. You want Alabama to lose. We're tied with Alabama right now. Florida has moved up. Tennessee's right there. I mean, we want all those teams to lose, because we want to try to extend, a little bit of distance. But we got to take care of business too. It's not.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I did see that Vanderbilt, they're allowed to storm the court.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, a full minute after. So hopefully the game's not going to be super close in those last 2 minutes.
Well, maybe they'll get the heck out of there.
Yeah, but hopefully the only thing I can think about is not letting those last 2 minutes be super, super close where we're fouling back and forth.
Right.
And then all the anticipation of the fans are right there and our players.
Where you're so far back from the court, nobody even can. I mean, you can't even see fans. I mean, that's the weirdest built. And Coach Pearl talked about it yesterday. He said, somebody asked him about coaching in that gym, and he said, ask Coach Freeze what it would be like to coach from the end zone. He said, you don't do it unless you go to Vanderbilt. And so it's weird and it's different. He said, but for Vanderbilt, where you coach half the games of the year in that position, you're used to it. So he said, yeah, it's definitely an advantage for them from a coaching standpoint where you're stuck under the goal on one end of the floor. And you don't get to see. I know you can come around the way they have that coach's box. They have it structured where you can come around onto the side, but still your bench is behind the goal, which is I always thought was weird. So, all right, Faith, Vanderbilt and Auburn tonight. Auburn remain number 1. Is this the best the SEC has ever been? I mean, it looks to be when you look at all the teams that are in the top 15 alone, how good this league is. And Auburn withstood the voting and stayed number 1 and probably should have with their resume. I mean, again, Florida moved up to 3, rightfully so. Alabama moved up to 2, rightfully so. And then now you have what looks to be an epic matchup, one that we've never seen before on Saturday that we'll talk a lot more about as the week goes on. But let's see what happens tonight for both Auburn and Alabama as Auburn plays at 6, Alabama plays at 8. So, again, I want to thank our sponsors. Can't do it without them. Just a bunch of great sponsors here on the program with Sense of Green, with Scout, with Bunkers. Can go through the whole list of them here. Faith with Sure Shot. and Oliver Ross. Can't thank them enough for their partnership. Maybe hearing some news this week. You and I will be out and about on Thursday again. Looking forward to that. Maybe adding a few more, and then we're shutting it down, like we said here on the program. We've got some great partners here, and all of you out there that watch and listen every day, you make the show. It's not about us. It's about you guys. We love the interaction and having you on here. So spread the word. We're 40 away from that 600 mark. We're getting there. So we got hats, we got T-shirts, we got all kind of stuff we're going to give away. There you go. If you want one of those, help us get to 600, and we're gonna draw. We're gonna give multiple away this time. So, Faith, anything to add before we leave?
I don't think so. I'm excited to watch some basketball tonight.
Got basketball on tap, so we're going to talk about that tomorrow. We'll be back with you at 8 o'clock for another edition of the Auburn Blitz. Randy and I will be on at lunch today at noon for the Auburn Blitz show, so you can tune that in right here on YouTube, Facebook as well, and statewide charter channel 701 for all of you out there that tune us in on TV. We would appreciate it if you continue to tune us in there, and we'll talk more about that. And we'll take your phone calls on that show. So that's another thing about the TV show. We can take your phone calls if you'd like to call in to the show. But anyway, Faith, it has been great. As always, strong on the fashion. Faith keeping it real with the fashion. Might get to see the hat at some point in time. She's keeping y'all on edge with that. Might have to bring the hat back tomorrow. We'll see. You'll just have to come back and see. I mean,
exactly.
You never know. Never know.
Point.
That's right. All right, everybody, have a wonderful, safe day. I know it's a little rainy out there. Be safe wherever it is that you are, and we'll see you tomorrow. War Eagle.
War Eagle.